Every night, before I go to bed, I check the front door. I do it slowly, without rushing, as if the door itself needs time to be sure. My hand rests on the lock for a moment longer than necessary. Sometimes I turn it once. Sometimes twice. And sometimes, even after I've turned away, I come back to check again. It's not fear. At least, I don't think it is. It's more like a habit that has learned my body better than my mind has. The house is quiet at this hour. The television has already gone dark. The kitchen light is off. Only the small lamp in the corner of the room is still awake, casting a soft yellow glow across the floor. I stand there, listening. Not for anything in particular. Just listening the way you do at night, to the silence, to the familiar sounds that tell you everything is as it should be. A distant dog barking somewhere far away. The faint hum of the ceiling fan. The slow, steady breathing of a house that has settled for the night. I press the door gently, just to feel it hold firm beneath my hand. Locked. I nod to myself, though no one is watching. There was a time when I didn't do this. A time when doors were just doors, and nights passed without a second thought. But somewhere along the years, checking the front door became part of how I end the day. Like brushing my teeth. Like turning off the lights. Like saying goodnight to a house that has kept me safe for longer than I can remember. I look once more through the small glass panel, out into the darkness beyond the porch. There's nothing there. There never is. And still, the ritual feels important. Only after the door is checked, and checked again, does the day feel complete. Only then do I feel ready to turn away, switch off the last light, and let the night take over. As I turn away from the door, the floor creaks softly beneath my feet. I pause. Not because the sound surprises me, this house has always spoken in small noises, but because each creak feels familiar, like an old voice clearing its throat before speaking. I've learned where the floor bends and where it stays silent. I step carefully, not wanting to wake the house any more than necessary. The hallway is dim, lit only by the faint spill of light from the lamp behind me. The walls carry shadows that stretch and soften as I move, following me like quiet companions. I pass the framed photographs hanging slightly crooked along the wall. I don't stop to look at them tonight, but I know them by heart. A younger version of myself, smiling without knowing why. Faces that used to fill the rooms with laughter. Moments frozen in time, doing their best not to fade. The house remembers them even when I don't look. Sometimes, when the night is especially still, I feel as though the walls are holding onto those memories for me, storing them carefully, like letters placed in a drawer for safekeeping. I reach the bedroom door and hesitate, my hand resting on the handle. There was a time when this room felt too large. Too empty. The silence inside it felt heavier than anywhere else in the house. But over time, the room learned how to be quiet in a gentler way. The bed waits, neatly made, the blanket folded just enough to slip under without effort. The window is slightly open, letting in the cool night air and the distant sounds of the world outside. I sit on the edge of the bed and exhale slowly. This is the moment when the day finally loosens its grip. When thoughts begin to slow, drifting like leaves settling after a long walk. Yet even here, in the calm, my mind lingers. Not on worries. Not on regrets. Just on the small, ordinary moments that shaped the day, the way the light looked in the afternoon, a familiar sound on the street, the comfort of knowing that tomorrow will begin much the same way. I reach for the lamp beside the bed but don't turn it off just yet. There's still something in the quiet that I'm listening for. The lamp casts a soft circle of light across the room. Not bright. Just enough. It reminds me that I don't need much anymore. Once, I thought every room had to be filled, with sound, with movement, with proof that something was happening. Now I understand the comfort of space. I lean back against the pillows and let my eyes rest on the ceiling. There's a small crack near the corner, been there for years. I used to mean to fix it. I never did. Some things don't need fixing. They just need to be noticed. The house settles again, a low sigh running through its walls as if it, too, is finding a comfortable position for the night. Outside, a car passes somewhere far away. Its sound fades quickly, like a thought that doesn't stay long enough to trouble me. I close my eyes, but sleep doesn't come right away. Instead, memories drift in quietly, without asking permission. Not the big ones, not the moments people talk about at gatherings, but the small ones. A morning cup of tea held between warm hands. The sound of keys placed gently on a table. The way the house smells after rain. These are the things that return when the world finally goes quiet. I realize that I've stopped chasing sleep. It arrives more easily when I stop waiting for it. My breathing slows, each inhale steady, each exhale unhurried. There's no urgency here. No clock ticking loud enough to matter. I think about how many nights I've spent like this, listening, remembering, letting the quiet do its work. The quiet doesn't demand anything. It doesn't rush me. It doesn't judge. It simply stays. The lamp hums softly beside me. The blanket feels heavier now, settling comfortably across my legs. I open my eyes once more, just for a moment. The room looks different at night. Kinder, somehow. As if it understands that this is where I rest. Where I set down the weight of the day and trust that the house will keep watch until morning. I reach for the lamp again. This time, I turn it off. The room doesn't disappear when the light goes out. It changes. Shadows soften instead of harden. Edges blur, as if the night is gently rounding off the sharp parts of the day. I lie still, listening. There's a clock somewhere in the house, ticking quietly. Not loud enough to count the seconds. Just enough to remind me that time is still moving, even when everything feels paused. I think about how different nights used to feel. There was always something to do. Somewhere to be. Someone waiting. Now, the waiting is gone. And strangely, so is the tension. The night doesn't ask questions. It doesn't expect answers. It wraps itself around the house like a familiar coat, worn but warm. My thoughts wander again, but they don't linger long. They arrive softly. And leave the same way. I remember evenings spent talking until voices grew tired. I remember silence that felt awkward back then, something to fill quickly. Tonight, silence feels earned. It's the kind that comes after a long life of words. My body sinks deeper into the mattress. Every part of me seems to agree at once, this is enough. No plans. No explanations. No need to replay old conversations or prepare for new ones. Just the simple act of being here. The house makes another small sound, wood adjusting, a gentle creak that tells me I'm not alone. I like that. There's comfort in knowing that even empty rooms remember you. Breathing becomes something I no longer notice. It happens on its own, steady and patient. I wonder how many nights I've rushed through, eager for morning. Now, I let the night take its time. Because rest isn't something you chase. It's something you allow. The darkness feels complete now, not heavy, not pressing. Protective. As if the night itself has decided to stand guard. And for the first time today, I don't feel the need to think about anything at all. Sleep doesn't arrive all at once. It drifts in slowly, like fog rolling across a quiet field. I can feel the day loosening its grip, not pulling away, just releasing. Thoughts grow lighter. Memories stop asking to be examined. There's a softness in this moment that's hard to describe. Not happiness. Not sadness. Something in between. The kind of peace that comes when you stop measuring time and start trusting it. My hands rest where they fall. No tension left to hold on to. Somewhere beyond the walls, the world keeps moving. Cars pass. Lights flicker in distant windows. But here, inside this room, nothing is required of me. I think about all the nights I once feared, nights that felt too long, too quiet. Now I understand them better. They were never empty. They were simply waiting for me to slow down enough to notice. The ceiling above me fades into darkness. I don't try to see it anymore. Breathing deepens. Each breath feels like an agreement. To let go. To rest. To trust that morning will come on its own. There's comfort in knowing that I don't need to solve anything tonight. The past can stay where it is. Tomorrow can wait at the door. This moment belongs only to now. The last thought that passes through my mind is a gentle one. Not a sentence. Not a memory. Just a feeling. That after everything, all the noise, all the years, it's okay to be still. And with that, the day finally lets me go. Morning arrives without asking permission. Not suddenly, just enough light slipping through the curtain to remind me that time kept moving while I rested. I don't open my eyes right away. There's something fragile about this moment, when sleep has loosened its hold but hasn't fully let go. The quiet feels different now. Less like an ending. More like an invitation. I listen to the sounds that always return first, the hum of the ceiling fan, a distant bird, the faint clink of someone else starting their day somewhere far away. These small noises carry weight. They always have. They remind me of other mornings, years ago, when waking up meant responsibility, movement, purpose. Back then, my mind would already be running ahead, planning the hours before my feet touched the floor. Now, the thoughts come slower. They don't rush me. They sit beside me instead. I stretch my fingers and notice how familiar they feel. Older, perhaps. But still capable. There's comfort in that. I think about how many mornings I've lived through without noticing them, how often I treated the start of the day like something to get through rather than something to arrive into. The past returns quietly. Not in sharp images. Not in regret. just fragments. A kitchen filled with early light. A voice calling my name from another room. The smell of coffee before it was ready. I don't chase these memories. I let them come and go as they please. That's something I've learned with time. Not every memory needs to be held. Some are just passing through, checking to see if I'm still listening. And this morning, I am. I finally open my eyes. The room looks the same as it did last night, but I don't. Something has shifted. Not dramatically. Just enough. The quiet didn't take anything from me. It gave something back. I sit up slowly, letting my feet rest on the floor. Not rushing them anywhere. There is a pause here. An embodied pause. The kind you feel not just in the mind, but in the chest, in the shoulders, in the breath. I stay there for a moment, feeling the weight of myself, the quiet strength of being present. This is not the pause of waiting. It is the pause of arriving. I notice my breathing first, how it moves in and out, without asking me to guide it. In younger years, I would have filled this silence, checked the time, planned the day, looked for something to do. Now, I let the stillness hold me instead. My hands rest on my knees, and I become aware of them. The lines, the warmth, the memory they carry. These hands have lifted children, closed doors, held on to people, and learned when to let go. I don't think about all that directly. I feel it. That's the difference. The body remembers in its own way, without words, without explanation. I take one slow breath, then another, each one grounding me deeper. This pause doesn't demand anything from me. No answers, no decisions, no movement, just presence. For the first time today, I am not thinking about what comes next. I am here. And that feels like enough. In the quiet, small things begin to speak. Things I usually walk past. The hum of the room. Soft, steady. Like a reminder that I'm not alone. A distant sound from outside. A door closing. Someone moving through their own morning. Life continuing. Even while I sit still. There's comfort in that. I realize how long it's been since I allowed myself to notice these details. Since I gave them space. When everything moves fast, the quiet disappears. But when I slow down, the quiet waits for me. It doesn't rush. It doesn't complain. It simply opens. I feel a memory rise. Not sharply. Not painfully. Just gently. A morning years ago. The same kind of stillness. The same kind of light. I don't chase the memory. I let it pass through. That feels important. Some things don't need to be held. They only need to be acknowledged. I rest back slightly, letting my shoulders drop, letting the body soften. This is what I was missing. I think. Not activity. Not noise. But space. Space to exist without explanation. The quiet doesn't ask who I was, or who I should be. It only asks one thing: that I stay. And so, I do. I notice my breathing now. Slow. Unforced. Not something I planned. Just something that happened. The body remembers how to rest, even when the mind forgets. My hands feel heavier, warm against my lap. There's a quiet trust in that weight, like being held by the moment. I think about how often I've lived in my head, planning, remembering, replaying. So much noise up there. But the body stays honest. It doesn't argue. It doesn't pretend. It just tells the truth. Right now, the truth is simple. I am here. Nothing urgent is pulling at me. No voice is demanding attention. Just this chair. This room. This breath. I let my eyes close for a moment. Not to sleep. Just to rest. The world doesn't disappear. It waits. That feels like a gift. When I open my eyes again, the room looks the same. But I don't. Something inside has softened. I didn't fix anything. I didn't solve anything. And yet, I feel steadier. Sometimes. That's enough. I could get up now. Return to the usual things. The dishes. The phone. The small obligations. They'll still be there. They always are. But for once, I don't rush. I stay seated, letting the quiet stretch a little longer. There's no reward for this. No applause. Just a gentle sense of permission. Permission to pause. Permission to not explain. I think about how rare that feels. Most days, we earn our rest. After work. After effort. After exhaustion. But this rest came first. And it feels different. It feels kinder. Outside, the light shifts slightly. Afternoon leaning toward evening. The kind of light that doesn't demand anything. I notice a faint sound somewhere. Maybe a distant car. Maybe a bird. It doesn't matter. The sound passes. And so does the thought. I smile without meaning to. Not because something good happened, but because nothing bad did. That feels worth noticing. I place my hands on the arms of the chair. Grounded. Steady. All right. I think I can stand soon. Not yet. But soon. Because moments like this, they don't ask to be held forever. They just ask to be noticed. And I noticed. When I finally stand, my knees remind me how long I've been sitting. They always do. A quiet protest. Nothing dramatic. I steady myself. Wait a moment. Then take a step forward. The room looks the same. Nothing shifted while I rested. Yet something inside me did. It's subtle. Easy to miss. But I feel it. A loosening. Like a knot that didn't need to be untied all at once. I walk slowly toward the window. Each step unhurried. No race to win. Outside, the street carries on. People passing. Cars humming by. Life doing what it does. I used to think I had to keep up with it. Match its pace. Its urgency. Now, I'm not so sure. I rest my hand on the glass. Cool beneath my palm. Grounding. I notice small things. A leaf caught in the breeze. A shadow shifting across the sidewalk. Ordinary things. Yet they hold my attention. Maybe because I finally gave them time. I realize something then. I don't need the whole day to change. Just a few quiet minutes. Just enough space to listen. Not to voices, but to myself. That thought stays with me, even as I turn away from the window. Like something gently placed in my pocket. I move toward the kitchen. Not because I need anything, but because movement feels right. The floor creaks softly beneath my feet. It always has. I've learned which boards complain, which stay quiet. That knowledge came slowly, over years of living here. I fill the kettle with water. Set it on the stove. No hurry. The sound of water settling feels familiar. Comforting. I wait while it warms. Hands resting on the counter. Just waiting. That used to bother me. Waiting felt unproductive. Wasted. Now it feels like breathing. The kettle begins to hum. Low. Patient. I lean back against the counter, watching the light shift across the wall. It reminds me that time moves, whether I chase it or not. And maybe I don't have to chase anymore. Maybe I can walk. The kettle clicks off. Done. I smile again. Softly. I pour the water. Steam rising. Curling into the air. There's something gentle about that. It appears, then disappears. Like so many moments. I carry the cup back toward the chair. Careful. Steady. This pace. This one. It's mine. And for now, that feels enough. That evening, after dinner, I found myself standing in the hallway again. Right where the old answering machine sat on its little shelf. I hadn't touched it yet. Hadn't unplugged it. Hadn't pressed play. It was strange how something so small could make a house feel heavier. I turned off the lights in the living room and left just the lamp near the window on. Soft, yellow, familiar. Outside, the street was quiet. No traffic. No voices. Just the low hum of night settling in. I sat down in the chair nearby and listened to the silence. Real silence, the kind that feels full instead of empty. That machine had been there for years. It had heard arguments. Laughter. Missed calls from people who never tried again. Back when it was new, everyone had one. You'd rush home just to see if the little red light was blinking. Some messages mattered. Most didn't. But you never knew which one would stay with you. I realized then that I wasn't afraid of the machine itself. I was afraid of what it might return to me. Because voices don't age the way faces do. They stay exactly as they were. You hear them and suddenly you're younger. The room is brighter. The future feels wide open again. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and studied the buttons. Play. Rewind. Stop. My finger hovered there longer than I expected. Part of me wanted to walk away. Leave it untouched. Let whatever was inside remain safely trapped in the past. But another part of me, the quieter one, the one that usually speaks late at night, knew this wasn't about curiosity. It was about listening. About allowing something unfinished to finish. I took a slow breath, felt it settle in my chest, and placed my finger on the button. Not yet. Just resting there. Because some moments don't need rushing. They need permission. And for the first time since finding that machine again, I stayed still long enough to give it that. The room felt warmer as I sat there, even though the heater wasn't on. Maybe it was just memory doing what it does best. Changing the temperature of a place without touching a thing. My finger was still resting on the button. Not pressing. Just feeling the smooth plastic under my skin. I thought about all the times that machine had been ignored. Days when the light blinked and no one checked it. Nights when messages were left and never returned. Back then, life felt busy. Always moving forward. Always convincing us there'd be time later. Later is a tricky word. It promises everything and delivers very little. I leaned back in the chair and closed my eyes. Not to avoid the moment, but to meet it properly. The house settled around me. Wood creaked softly. Somewhere a pipe clicked. I imagined the voice on the other side of that button. Steady. Familiar. Unaware of how many years had passed. That's the thing about recorded voices. They don't know they're being saved. They speak honestly. Without knowing they might become a memory. My hand trembled just slightly. Not fear. More like respect. Respect for the time that had gone by. For the person I had been when that message was left. For the person I was now. I opened my eyes and looked at the machine again. The red light was steady. Patient. It wasn't demanding anything. Wasn't asking me to be ready. It was simply waiting. And I realized something then. This wasn't about the past calling me back. It was about whether I was willing to listen. Now. I took another slow breath. Deeper this time. Let it fill my chest. The room felt quiet enough. The night felt kind. I shifted forward slightly. Thumb pressing just a bit harder on the button. Not enough to start it. Not yet. Just enough to know. Some voices don't fade. They wait. And some moments arrive softly. Only when you finally stop moving. The click was soft. Almost too soft to notice. A gentle sound. Like the house clearing its throat. The machine hummed for a moment. A low, familiar whir. And then the room filled with breath. Not words at first. Just breathing. Someone adjusting the phone. I froze. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Because before the voice spoke, I already knew. It was hers. Time did something strange then. It didn't rush backward. It didn't collapse. It simply stood still. "Hey," the voice said. Warm. Uncertain. Like she wasn't sure I'd ever hear it. That one word hit harder than a whole sentence. I felt my chest tighten. Not pain. Recognition. Her voice hadn't aged. Hadn't cracked. Hadn't softened. It was exactly as it had been. Alive in a way photographs never are. She laughed quietly. A nervous little sound. And suddenly I was younger. Standing in the kitchen. Shoes by the door. Life still unfolding ahead of us. "I don't know if you'll get this," she said. And I almost smiled. Everyone said that back then. As if messages were fragile things. I listened without interrupting. Without breathing too loudly. The room disappeared. The chair beneath me faded. There was only the voice. And the space between the words. She talked about nothing important. The weather. A small mistake at work. Something she'd forgotten to tell me. And somehow, it was everything. My hands rested in my lap. Still. Steady. No urge to rewind. No need to stop. Just listening. The way I should have done more often. When the message ended, there was a soft beep. And then silence. Real silence. The kind that arrives gently. I stayed there long after. Letting the quiet settle back in. Because some voices don't ask to be answered. They only ask to be heard. And that night, for the first time in years, I listened. The machine went quiet again. As if nothing had happened. No blinking light. No reminder. Just a small box sitting where it always had. But the room felt different now. Heavier. Fuller. I didn't reach for the machine again. Didn't rewind. Didn't stop it. Some moments aren't meant to be repeated. They're meant to be absorbed. I stayed in the chair. Hands folded. Eyes resting on the floor. The voice echoed somewhere inside me. Not loudly. Not urgently. Just present. I realized then that I hadn't missed her voice. I had missed the way it made me feel. Grounded. Seen. Like I belonged somewhere. Back when that message was left. Life felt crowded. Always moving. Always planning ahead. Listening had felt optional. Now, with fewer days rushing by, listening felt essential. I thought about all the words I'd never returned, calls I meant to make, letters I meant to send. None of it had been intentional. Just postponed long enough to disappear. The chair creaked as I shifted. My knees protested slightly. Age has a way of reminding you. That time keeps score. I looked toward the window. The night outside was still. Streetlights hummed softly. A moth fluttered near the glass. Somewhere between that voice and this quiet room, I understood something. We don't lose people all at once. We lose them slowly. through unspoken moments. The answering machine didn't bring her back. It didn't solve anything. But it gave me a doorway. A chance to stand still long enough to feel what I'd been carrying. I took a slow breath, longer than the others. And for the first time that evening, I let myself miss her. I didn't cry right away. And that surprised me. I'd always imagined that moment would break me. That the sound of her voice would undo everything. Instead, it settled into me slowly, like warmth spreading through cold hands. I sat there, feeling the quiet wrap around me. No urge to rush. No need to fix anything. Just space. That's something you learn with time. Not every feeling needs a reaction. Some only need room. I thought about the person she had been then. The one who left that message without knowing what came next. She sounded hopeful, careful, unaware of how final some things can be. That wasn't her fault. It was just life doing what it does. I reached over and touched the edge of the table. The wood felt worn, smooth from years of use. Everything in this house carried time differently. Some things aged quietly. Some waited patiently. The answering machine had waited. So had the words inside it. I wondered how many times I'd walked past it without noticing. How many chances I'd had to listen earlier. Regret tried to rise then. But I didn't let it take over. Regret is loud. And this moment deserved quiet. Instead, I focused on what the message gave me. Not loss, but clarity. It reminded me that connection doesn't end suddenly. It fades only when we stop listening. I leaned back again, closed my eyes. The voice replayed in my mind. Not word for word, just the feeling of it. And that was enough. Some memories don't need detail. They only need presence. I opened my eyes slowly, feeling steadier than before. The night outside hadn't changed, but something inside me had. I stood up slowly, my legs stiff from sitting so long. The chair protested softly as I moved it back. Another sound the house knew well. I walked toward the kitchen. Not because I was hungry, but because moving felt necessary. The light above the sink hummed faintly. Familiar. Steady. I poured myself a glass of water. Watched it fill. Clear and simple. Funny how ordinary things ground you. A glass. A counter. A quiet room. I took a sip and leaned against the counter. Let the coolness settle. That voice hadn't demanded anything. Hadn't asked me to respond. And yet, it had shifted something deep inside me. I realized then that I wasn't being pulled backward. I was being asked to stand still. To acknowledge what had been. Without needing to relive it. For years, I'd avoided that shelf. That machine. Not out of fear. Out of convenience. It's easy to tell yourself you're done with something. Harder to admit it still matters. The water glass rested in my hand. Heavy now. I carried it back to the living room. Moved more carefully than before. The answering machine sat exactly where I'd left it. Silent. Unassuming. I didn't touch it again. Some conversations only need to happen once. I sat down. Not in the chair this time, but on the couch. A different angle. A different feeling. The night felt deeper now. More settled. And for the first time since pressing that button, I felt something close to peace. Not the kind that erases the past. The kind that makes room for it. I rested my hands in my lap. Took a long breath. The house held the quiet without effort. And I understood. Listening doesn't always change what happened. Sometimes it changes how you carry it. The clock on the wall clicked softly, each second finding its place. I hadn't noticed it earlier. Now it felt like company. I leaned back on the couch. Let my shoulders sink. The weight I'd been carrying wasn't gone. It had simply loosened its grip. There's a difference between forgetting and understanding. I thought about how many nights I'd rushed through. How often I filled silence with noise. Music. News. Anything to avoid listening. But tonight, silence felt kind. Not empty. Not sharp. Just present. I closed my eyes for a moment. Let the room exist without me watching it. The walls held stories. The floor remembered footsteps. This place had seen joy. Arguments. Long phone calls. And quiet forgiveness. All of it still here. None of it asking for anything. I opened my eyes and noticed the window. The city lights blinked back. Somewhere out there, life moved forward. And for once, I didn't feel behind. I realized then that healing doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up quietly. When you finally stop running. The answering machine remained untouched. A closed chapter. I didn't feel the need to rewind. Or replay. Some memories only want to be acknowledged. Not examined. I stretched my legs out. Felt the tiredness settle in. It wasn't sadness. It was release. A signal that something had shifted. Tomorrow would come. With its routines. Its distractions. But tonight, I allowed myself to stay. To sit with what was. And let it be enough. The clock continued its gentle rhythm. And I matched my breathing to it. Slow. Steady. For the first time in a long while. I wasn't waiting for the past to leave. I had finally made space for myself. The room felt different now. Not brighter. Just settled. I stood up slowly. As if the moment might break if I rushed it. The chair by the window waited. Faithful as ever. I sat there. Watching the glass reflect my outline. Not sharp. Not tired. Just human. Outside. A train passed in the distance. A low hum. Then gone. Life continuing. Without asking me to keep up. I thought about the years I spent trying to outrun quiet. Trying to be louder than my own thoughts. Tonight, I let them speak. Not to judge. Not to fix. Only to listen. Some thoughts faded. Others softened. None demanded answers. The air felt cooler near the window. I pulled the curtain slightly, letting the city peek in. Lights flickered. Windows glowed. So many lives unfolding at once. And somehow, that made me feel less alone. I realized then that peace isn't a destination. It's permission. Permission to pause. To rest. To stop proving anything. I placed my hand on the glass. Cold. Solid. A reminder that I was here. Now. Breathing. The past stayed where it belonged. Behind me. The future didn't rush forward. It waited. I smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because it was enough. As I turned off the lamp, darkness settled gently. Not heavy. Not final. Just quiet. And in that quiet, I finally understood. Some nights don't change your life. They return it to you. I let my eyes close. The room holding me. And for the first time in a very long while,